Dad was born on Long Island. Pretty traditional Catholic upbringing, Irish mom, English, German father, 5 brothers and sisters. Went to parochial schools all his life. As a matter of fact, Dad never sat in a class with a girl. He went to all-male Catholic schools and then, of course, went to VMI. All he ever wanted to do was be a paratrooper. He was a guy who always thought he was born a generation too late. He wanted to be in the 82nd, to jump into St. Mary Glees during the Normandy invasion. That was Dad's wish, and that was Dad's passion. His first assignment was in the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, and that's where he started off, excelled, and worked his way into the 82nd, and that's where he commanded his company. And he spent the rest of his career trying to get into what little combat there was between 1980 and, say 1991. He was at Green Ramp at Pope Air Force Base for the invasion of Grenada, trying to go in with the Rangers, and didn't make it on that flight. 89 in Panama, didn't make it out there, and then finally made it over in 91. He begged, borrowed, and stole his way into the 3rd Armored Division. So infantry guy, where infantry wasn't heavily involved in this, he ended up getting to go over there with the 3rd Armored Division and actually went into combat with the 1st UK Armor and had a tremendous time. That's where he got his Bronze Star. He spent 22, 23 years in the military and got 3 days of combat, but I think it was worthwhile for him.
Many of you might remember my dad as a great soldier, as a leader, and he was. He did both with such a passion that I remember admiring him even as a child. You may also remember him as a good and loyal friend, a brother, an uncle, a grandfather. A man who many of you described as their rock, one who with humor and devotion helped many of you through difficulties in your lives. I remember him as my soccer coach, as my biggest fan, as my pit crew at horse shows, the family historian, the best shoulder in the world to cry on when life's difficulties just didn't seem fair. He was also the first in the family to excitedly hold my son John after he was born. He was a great father. My dad loved fiercely and he laughed often. I might miss laughing with him most of all.
He was always very even-handed. When things were good, he wasn't overly excited about it, but when things were bad, he always managed to help me move things along. And really, in the end, all he could do was show how to live. And that's what I got from Dad. In the second week of jump school down at Fort Benning, Dad came down and hung out for the whole week, so I'd go to training. And he'd just take me to dinner that evening when he came back. What I didn't know was he had brought his blood wings, his initial wings that he had pinned on, and got to pin those on me and gave a tremendous speech to our class. Probably a little bit more of a speech than they're used to at a jump school graduation, but it was great. It was a special moment for both of us.
My favorite memory was of how my dad always said goodbye. It might seem sort of over the top for those of you who didn't know him well. On the surface, my dad was a strong and a proud man, but my father loved deeply, and it showed in the way he said goodbye. Charmingly, whether you were off on a great adventure or just 20 minutes down the road, he would walk you to your car, and he would linger in his goodbye. He would stand there and he would wave until you were gone, taking in the last moments of you. He would just love you all the way out of sight. I plan on doing that today. I plan on lingering in my goodbye to my dad, and I hope you'll all join me in loving him all the way out of sight. Because he knew then what I know now, that when you love someone like he loved us, like I love him, it's really hard to say goodbye.
you know, some nights I'd just sit downstairs and Kurt and I would get tanked up while we're on the phone just talking about Dad. And we had a discussion over whether Dad was a great man or a good man. And I took the position that he was a good man, and that not only was he a good man, that being a good man is more important than being a great man. You know, he was a distinguished officer, but he wasn't George Patton. You know, there's no books being written about him, and the truth is, you know, I mean, I think great men are ultimately flawed. Their biggest flaws was their narcissism and their self-regard, and Dad had none of that. Dad was a good man, and, you know, what more is there?